radar.
Good for you.
It's like they blew their wad on Star Wars Acolyte, and now they're just kind of sleepy.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be ready by the time Andor Season 2 rolls around.
I mean, at the very least, Star Wars Theory will be freaking out about Andor because
oh no, there's bricks and nails in Star Wars.
Or it doesn't follow his specific fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I really hate Star Wars fans.
They are the worst.
Most of the time, I really do not like them.
That's making noises.
I know. Does it always do that?
Not that I remember. I mean, I would bet that these two buttons up here can allow you to make it not do that.
I'm gonna share something with you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I care.
Okay.
That much. As long as it doesn't start ringing. Like I don't start getting a phone call or something. Blue sky.
With their
terrible,
awful app. Like you can tell that this was made to run on phones, and they just never considered the possibility that anyone might run it on an iPad.
Yeah. It's funny because they've had an explosion of users.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think everyone's just kind of tired of Elon Musk.
It took them a little while, but they got there in the end.
Twitch.tv/Jedi Enclave. Oh, that's nice, Paul. Oh, all right. Wow.
Well, I think all the chores are done.
I think we're ready, and it's exactly 6:30.
Well,
wow.
Dang,
Hot damn. Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
I'm not sure. There was a weird thing just now. There was a little hiccup, and
but we're here now, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Ask me how much brain power I'm gonna put into solving what just happened.
None.
It's gonna be very, very little. But yeah, this is the Jedi Enclave presents you now. This is Podcasting Podcast. I'm your host Daniel. This is Chris, and we're here to talk about some what?
No, I was just you're being redundant.
Why?
Because we already said that.
Well, it's because I got off track and it's crazy. The different I have this thing where I can prepare for something because I've done a fair bit of public speaking in my past. It's like I prepare what I'm going to say in my head, and then when it gets time to say it, I just start thinking about other things.
Yeah.
It's just entirely unrelated, and I don't even become shameful. Like, I don't get embarrassed by it anymore. I'm just like, yeah, I wasn't thinking about this right now. I was thinking about something else. Anyway.
Sorry, I was thinking about X-Wings.
Yeah. It was, yeah. Anyway, this is our weekly podcast about science fiction, Star Wars things that we enjoy. Most of what we're doing today is Skeleton Crew. However, did you see? James Gunn's making a new Superman.
Mm-hmm.
First, the Snyder Cut Bros are real upset about it because they get upset
because that was the definitive Superman movie and
right.
Blah blah blah.
So the trailer is coming out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Today there was a trailer for the trailer.
Of course, because that's the hellscape we live in now.
And yesterday there was a teaser
for the trailer.
Yes.
Oh my god.
And the cool thing about it though is that in the little thing yesterday, it would appear that the composer for that film is using some of John Williams's original Superman material.
Okay. Which
is really cool because that's one of the best film scores ever written. And I don't want to make anyone mad because I know that there are going to be people.
That is a lie. You love making people mad.
Well, it depends on what I'm making them mad about.
Okay.
There are people who will watch this who don't know any better, and it doesn't mean that you're stupid, that really like Hans Zimmer, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that there isn't anything there not to like, right? Like maybe you like certain sounds or whatever.
Sure.
But he's a fucking joke as a composer, and not a lot of people realize
that he has a stable of enslaved composers that live in his basement,
right?
That he makes write all the things that he's actually credited for.
Right. He writes very little of the music that he writes.
Well,
he writes credited for it. Yeah,
writes.
And it's I have a friend who works in film scoring in Hollywood, and when he was just out of his master's degree, and I'm not going to say who it is, applied to work with Hans Zimmer, and they were like, "Okay, we'll bring you on as an intern, but we will not pay you."
Oh.
And he was like, "But I live in Los Angeles.
It's incredibly expensive.
It costs a lot to live here, and you know that because you live here too.
May I please have some money so that I can, buy food and shelter?"
And he got a lecture about how this is the problem with younger professionals, is that they don't know a privilege when one comes along. And it's like, since then, this guy is like the friend I'm talking about has written music for the Oscars and the Academy Awards and like some pretty big things. And he didn't need that, and he told him to fuck off. He's like, "No, I'm not, like, even Hans Zimmer, I'm not gonna, whatever."
Always know what you're worth.
Yeah.
And refuse to take less than it.
Yeah. What was I? Oh yeah, his music for Superman sucks. And I'm sorry. Okay, if you like Hans Zimmer's music for Superman, that's fine. You're allowed to like it. I'm glad you did. It just so happens that you and I are both professional musicians.
Yeah.
Like classically trained professional musicians. And I could go out and ask a random person to whistle the tune for John Williams' Superman, and like everyone's gonna know it. And you're like, "Okay, what was the theme for Hans Zimmer's Superman?" And they're gonna be like,
"Was there one interval in it?"
Yeah, it was a perfect fourth.
Okay,
that was the Superman theme. Was one, like, two notes, this note, and then it goes up to here, and that was it.
There was a summer that you and I were doing musically. It was the summer.
We've gone way off Star Wars, by the way. But anyway, go ahead.
It was the summer after The Dark Knight came out.
Yeah. No, it was the summer of The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. That's right. And like at one intermission at this musical, like the cast was doing something or other, and you were just like, "Okay, cellos, you're gonna play D to F natural. Go that.
Minor third.
All right, trombone.
Yeah.
And the entire cast just stopped and looked at us.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Whoa."
Yeah, we had gone to see the movie, and I taught the whole thing by rote to the orchestra, just like within a couple of minutes. Yeah. It was that has nothing to say about my abilities to teach by rote.
Yeah.
Just that's how, like, very lean and simple his themes are.
Anyway, let's get back to Star Wars.
Anyway, the Superman has a trailer coming out tomorrow, and with everything these days, it's people are very divided about it, and it's going to end up being a culture war thing, and it's woke, or it's this, or it's that. It's kind of like the Game Awards last week. I think a couple of trailers dropped, right, for a couple of games.
Many trailers, yes.
And then, like, there are a couple that the real butthurt gamer boys are really upset about because, like, one of them features a female that they can't just openly masturbate to.
Oh, this is slightly off track, but Civilization 7 revealed that their next world leader that you can play as is Harriet Tubman, and the Nazis on Twitter were really upset about that.
The Nazis at Twitter, a.k.a. all
Twitter.
Twitter. Yeah. Anyway, man, we went through a weird roller coaster of themes just now. There isn't a lot of Star Wars. I don't think there's any Star Wars news. And the Superman thing was like the one, like, nerdy thing.
Do you want to just get to Skeleton Crew?
Yeah. Yes. And I've watched this twice. So normally what we do, I watch it at night, and then my partner comes home from work the next day, and we watch it like when he gets home from work, which is good because it gives me a chance to, like,
process and then fill in the blanks.
Okay, let's do a quick spoiler free.
Okay. This was a Neil episode.
Yes,
very definitely.
And I love Neil.
Yeah,
and I love Neil. I didn't love this episode.
Really?
Yeah, it's out of the 4 that we've seen, it's my least favorite.
Okay.
Despite all the great Neil stuff, which is, to me, kind of separate, right? It was kind of, I don't know. There were some weird things about it that the pacing of the episode was very strange to me.
Yeah. I do like that they answered at least a few of the questions that they were setting up earlier on.
Yes, and by doing so, asked about 10 more questions,
which is good writing. You never want to reveal everything halfway through your season.
So yes, I'm glad that they're playing with the mystery and everything, and they're definitely developing the characters, which is good.
Definitely.
But maybe it's because there were some character motivations, some new characters, at least one in particular that we meet in this episode, where it was like, why are you like this? And what is the point of this? And why did we need you as a character in this? And we'll get there when we get there. However, it's not all of the episodes in this show are going to be my favorite episodes. No. So like, I'm not mad about it. It's not like I got to the end of the episode and it was like, sucks.
I'm gonna post about this on Blue Sky.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, because if I yelled about Skeleton Crew on Blue Sky, I think I'd get yelled at. Because Blue Sky has been kind of a treat for me the last few weeks since we got onto it, because everyone I've come in contact with have just been really positive and have just really liked Star Wars, and I'm like,
this is weird.
You're challenging my worldview because I was under the impression
that everybody hated Star Wars.
Yeah, everyone's a Nazi because all I saw was Twitter, and so I'm not saying I hate it. Which, by the way, I forgot. Go like us on Facebook.
Yeah.
Not on Twitter. We don't have Twitter. Twitch, YouTube, Blue Sky. We're on Discord, which is probably the best place to just chat with us randomly.
Are we still on TikTok until that gets banned in the US?
Yeah, but we've not posted to TikTok in a long time. In fact, I had forgotten we had one until you just mentioned it. Is it getting banned?
They're making an appeal to the Supreme Court, and then if that fails, then yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, anyway. So this is Skeleton Crew, episode 4. We're going to spoil it. So if you've not seen this episode, go watch it and come back. And then at the end of this, I asked earlier today for your thoughts and your opinions about the episode, which we'll read. We'll also be reading any chats that come in probably at the end of our little discussion here. So get them in now, and you can tell your mom that your name was on the internet. You can see your name on the internet somewhere.
Yep.
And if that's the only thing you ever accomplished for your mother, that's it. You did it here. Good job. Congratulations. All right. Skeleton Crew episode 4.
All right.
Yay! The crew has arrived at Ad-Atten.
Huzzah!
They've come out of hyperspace. There's a no adults rule in the cockpit.
I spent the first minute or so of this episode thinking, wow, they resolved this remarkably quickly.
Like, okay, well.
All right.
Roll credits, I guess.
Yeah,
we're done.
I guess
mystery's over.
What's the rest
Yay!
of the season
Jude Law gets his treasure.
Yeah.
Neil marries what's her face in the whatever in the school, and Wim's father loves him again, or whatever. Not that he ever didn't love him. He's too busy for him. Yeah. And then Fern, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. Which one's okay? But by the way, does KB have the lesbian moms?
Yes.
Okay. You know that Twitter was in an uproar over this,
of course,
and parts of Facebook. I, a gay man, did not see the lesbians in that. I swear to God, I saw things on there about there being lesbian moms, and I was like, where? Because I don't remember. Like, there's that one scene at the beginning of the episode with the parents, and I was not watching that carefully. So, like, you've got to be really looking for something just to be pissy about.
Although, between that and the lesbian space witches in Acolyte,
that was more overt.
Star Wars lesbians have been having a moment.
Yeah, and good for them.
Yeah.
You know what? Good for them.
They deserve it.
I think I like them better as lesbian space witches because they're way more dangerous.
Yeah.
I would not fuck with them. So anyway, I like that they've instituted a no adults in the cockpit thing because they've come to this agreement now where Jude Law works for them, not the other way around, and it's not a partnership. So they like kick him out of the cockpit, and I like how he's just humoring them.
Yeah, he's just like okay, if you really think you can fly the ship.
Like on one hand, he's like, fucking, you know what? They'll just shut up.
It's easier than arguing.
Yes, right.
I'm just gonna do this.
But like on the other hand, SM-33 might kill him. Yeah. And he's like, oh, actually, I don't know how I would deal with that. So you know what? It's probably better if we just do this. So they land the ship.
Well, they go to land the ship, and like it shakes a little bit. And SM-33 says, yeah, we're locked in a autopilot landing sequence. I'm
Yeah,
just
they're
turn
pulling
that
us in,
off,
yeah.
and I will land the ship myself.
There's a little moment where Wim is really disappointed because the
It's
adventure's
like,
over.
We were having fun, and now we're home,
Right.
and everything's gonna suck again because I live in the suburbs.
I'm starting to get this feeling that Wim could never see his dad again, and he wouldn't care.
As long as he kept having adventures.
Yeah, I think he would just forget about it. He would probably be the perfect Jedi candidate, honestly.
Yeah.
Like if he ended up being super Force sensitive.
Although excitement, adventure, a Jedi craves not these things.
Yeah, they all do though. Like we know they do.
Yeah.
Except for Yoda. Even though I've seen that man beat people to death with a battle axe. So
that's like 4 times his size.
right, yeah. So yeah, they get locked in an auto landing thing. 33, which is what we're calling him now, I guess.
Yeah.
This is what they called him in the episode.
Because they can't just come out and call him Smee.
Right. That'll be a little too overt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they land and something isn't quite right.
Yeah, they're in like this blasted field, and there's like smoke everywhere.
It's like a playground. They land like right next to a playground or
Yeah.
something, and everything's all fucked up and dilapidated. And
they walk up and like you can see the houses like sort of look like the houses on At-Atten, except they're incredibly fucked up.
yeah, they look like the north side of Decatur. Like it's really like it doesn't look very good at all. And that's where I live.
Oh yeah, but before the kids go off to explore, Fern tells SM-33, "Hey, keep Jude Law on the ship."
Right. Yeah. Because
SM-33 is like initiating babysitting sequence.
Yeah.
Get on the ship, baby. Come on, baby. Goo goo gaga, baby.
Yeah. That was. I was gonna get there, but like Jude Law, before this happens, steps off the ramp and he's like, "Yo, this is At-Atten. This looks like shit.
Yeah.
This place looks like shit.
Where's the fucking treasure?
There, a planet like this doesn't have treasure. This place is a fucking dump." And that's where they institute the babysitting protocol. They go into one of the houses because they all live in like those cookie cutter, like suburbia houses, except for Fern. Maybe I think she lives in one of the nicer ones because her mom's like under secretary.
She lives
Karen.
in the gated community.
Right. Yeah. Only white people live there probably, and no aliens. So everything is overgrown and kind of all the windows are broken and shit. And they're like, everything looks exactly like At-Atten, but the kids are like, this is not At-Atten.
No.
We were just here 2 days ago. It did not look like this.
There's no way this could all be so fucked up.
So they start throwing around some theories, and they kind of start to wonder if this isn't a planet like At-Atten that was also hidden, like one of the old Republic jewels or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if you recall the last episode, Kim actually straight up said there were 12 of these jewels of the old Republic.
Right. Which were hidden for various reasons, but she also said they were all destroyed, except for At-Atten. So, meanwhile, while he's being babysat, Jude Law rifles through some of the shit on the ship, and he finds like the creepy holo projector with the Star Wars holiday celebration carnival music, and he's like, "Oh fuck, turn that off." And he finds Wim's credits, and he's like, "Now we're talking some fucking treasure." And he like bites it and shit, and he's like, "I just broke a tooth, but now I'm rich." And he's like, "I will put that in my pocket for later." And SM-33 fucking busts him for thieving.
Yeah.
And Jude Law's like, "Hey,
wait a minute, aren't you a pirate?
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't you be in favor of thievery?"
Yeah. Also, I'm Jude Law. Take your fucking hands off me. And he's like, "All right, that's a fair point." So, 33 apologizes and says, "I'm sorry. Achrann plays tricks on my memory." And Jude Law's like, "What the fuck is
what
Achrann?"
What you just said is not At-Atten.
Yeah. And so he's like, "Well, okay."
Can't say I remember no At-Atten.
So he asks him about At-Atten, and he for like the third time this season, he says, "I can't say I remember anything about no At-Atten." And Jude Law's like, "Well, let's see if we can't do a little bit of memory jogging."
Yeah.
The kids are exploring around on the planet. Wim, of course, has a stick lightsaber because that's what he does.
Course.
And I think it's a neat detail that like Neil has allergies, and he's like doing little sneezes with his little trumpet trunk and shit. And they find a giant like headless statue. And the one thing that I love so much about this show is they nail these like certain little things that kids do and it comes off as so authentic. And one of them is Wim says, "Oh, it's King No Head," and Fern, unable to see that he's just joking around.
Yeah.
It was like, that's not his name. And then Wim's like, well, I'm not going to be fucking shot down by a girl. Yes, the fuck it is. And they have this like whole fight about what this guy's fucking name is. And it's just like, I miss being an age where that's what mattered, right? Like I didn't have to worry about anything else. And if it's the one thing I love about this show so much, is that it reminds me of simpler times.
I almost wonder if that was ad-libbed, that little sequence, just because it's so perfect.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing, is that when you do improvisation with children like that, it's risky because they're not as experienced, and it ends up not working very well. And if it was written, good for like whoever wrote it. So like, either a blaster bolt like hits the statue or goes across the sky or something.
But they all freak out and dive for cover.
Yeah, so they go and they jump for cover, and then they're immediately like surrounded by these small little masked figures with guns, right? And they're like, "What fucking side are you on? What flag do you fly?" And they're like,
"I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, Dad.
Yeah,
like we just got here.
We're just kids."
Yeah.
And the one person takes their fucking age, like, "Well, we're just kids too, and we're the troik, we're troik, or whatever."
Except she has a really French accent, so it's called the toi.
Is that what she says?
The twike,
or
something like that.
And she says, if the Hatton Patrol finds us, they'll kill us, no questions asked. And they're like, we have no idea what none of those words.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for us personally. So what the fuck? And she's like, okay.
Okay, look. Just fucking hide. I'll explain it all later.
So she pulls him over to like a bus or something.
Like she jumps up, like grabs the rim, kicks out the door.
This girl is and this is the last thing we see from her in this episode. Yeah. This girl is the master of unnecessary flips.
She is so extra.
Yeah, right. So they take cover in a bus as this patrol like shows up, and
like we say patrol, but it's a fucking army.
Yeah, like one of them's got a tank.
Yeah,
an Ithorian's driving it. He's like
like an actual like Clone Wars era battle droid tank.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that. It looked like it, but it was.
I mean, plus or minus a long time of being fucked up.
Yeah, or it's some kind of tank. It doesn't really matter, but they're driving it around and shit. And they wait for him to pass, and there's a moment where at the end of their patrol, they have like this little group of EOPs, which I'm starting to wonder if EOPs is just a word for a certain kind of livestock animal, like how we use the word cow.
Maybe
because they don't look like EOPs from Tatooine, with their little weird trunk butt.
Maybe they're just a regional subspecies.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it's like Jurassic Park and they've like cloned their own to make them more scary or have feathers or shit. Yeah. So the EOP, like this group of EOPs appears to mean something to this girl, but like I don't think we're supposed to know like what her problem is. She puts on her helmet and she's like, okay, I'm going to take you home to where I live. So let's go. And she takes them to an abandoned school. And it's like brick for brick.
Yeah.
The same thing on Manhattan. Because all the kids are like, we go to school in a building just like this.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a base for the Troika. And she goes and finds this adult guy. And it ends up, it's like General... he's got like a 10-year-old herald. And the 10-year-old's like, all hail General fucking Dad or whatever. Leader of the Troika, first of his name, blah 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 blah, and all the kids are like, "Are we supposed to be impressed?"
Who the fuck is that?
So they meet this guy, and he asks them if they're warriors, and Neil's like, "No, you stupid fuck, we're kids."
Well, Fern introduces herself as Captain Fern,
right,
and the general's like, "Oh, so
well,
you're
Captain,
warriors.
Yeah, right." And I like how this is where you start to notice that. It's this guy, a couple of adults, and the rest of them are kids. And it's where I started in this episode to wonder what the fuck is going on. And this is one of the problems I had with this episode. And I'll develop it a little bit as we go along the story. But I'm pretty sure that maybe these older people are just teachers that started a kid army or something.
Maybe.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. But Neil's like, we're kids, and like, so are most of you guys. What the fuck? And the general guy's like, well, on this planet we treat our kids as adults. And he's like, on your feet, soldiers. And they're like, oh fuck, what have we gotten into?
Yeah.
And
like, you're gonna go fucking train with our guns.
Well, first he asks him, he's like, what the fuck do you guys want? And Fern's like, directions home to Achrann. And they're like, we have no idea what the fuck or where the fuck that is. And then his daughter, the girl that they met on the street or whatever,
it's like, hey, can't we just go to
the Fallen Sanctum? Yeah, because there are weird carvings up there, and maybe and the general guy is like, okay, well the journey is really dangerous, and maybe you could be of use, and you can train with us, and we'll see if you're worthy enough to make the trip.
So we're going to conscript you into our child soldier army.
Right, which
again, is not morally ambiguous.
Right, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? Yeah. And at some point, even the girl's like, yeah, when he fucking dies, I'm going to take over. And, I'll be the leader or whatever. So, meanwhile, Jude Law takes 33 down the ramp of the ship and asks him if he remembers anything about Achrann and the treasure. He's like, fucking look around and, tell me everything you know. And he's like, yeah, I remember these warriors. We snuck past them. Yeah. And Jude Law's like,
what fucking warriors?
I'm sorry, what warriors? And they're surrounded by warriors. And great, first of all, detail and delivery by Jude Law, where he just puts his hands up and he's like, you know what? Just fucking shoot me. Like, I'm over it. I'm done. Nothing is worth this much. Like,
nothing makes sense anymore. You might as well just fucking put me out of my misery.
Yes. So, okay. This is where we get to the part of the episode where the children are training with real guns.
Yes.
And it's weird and fucked up, and apparently Neil is the only one that's like, guys, what the fuck? what are we doing?
Yeah.
But Wim, who's like, oh my god, it's a gun.
Yeah.
Right? Like, everyone's real stoked.
She's having a great time.
Yeah. And so he talks to the girl, which, by the way, what is her name? I can't remember her name.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
I'm sure it's on Wikipedia.
Yeah. I don't know if they ever gave her a name.
They did.
Oh, okay.
Definitely did.
Becky. We're going to call her Becky.
Okay.
So he talks to Becky.
All right, you clearly don't like these guns. Let me show you the really big gun we have. But first, let's stop by the cafeteria and get some lunch.
Yeah. So Neil immediately is like, I'm more of a lover, not a fighter. If you know what I mean. And she's like, oh, you want to go see my giant gun? And he's like, yes, please.
I'm prepubescent. I don't know what innuendo is.
Right. Yeah. He's got a couple more years.
Yeah.
So she takes him to the roof, which is, I think, where most of everyone, like, they live on the roof, I think. And
there's like a tent city put up there, and he's like, wow, this is really fucked up.
Yeah. They get in line for their food, and she starts to explain, like, she's like, okay, so the other guys, the Hattons or whatever the fuck, stole our Eopies, so like we went and shot some of their kids, and then like this whole thing is this like the spiraling escalation, and and
Neil's like, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, he's like,
why don't you just like apologize?
That's dumb. That's the dumbest shit in the world. And God bless his heart, Neil gets his food and he notices that there are a couple of hungry kids, and just gives them his food because Neil is a treasure.
He's too pure for this world.
We're all wondering what the treasure on Achrann is, and we know what it is. It's fucking Neil. And so he gives his food away, and
Becky's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
No one really does that.
Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. Anyway.
You want to see my big gun now?
Look at this gigantic gun.
Yeah, she pulls out like a big fucking turbo laser from the roof. And
a literal Chekhov's gun, by the way, because this never pays off so far.
Well, the definition of a Chekhov's gun is that it does pay off. So it's like the un-Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
It is. Now that you mention it, it is weird that they.
I don't know. Maybe next episode.
Yeah.
But.
I don't know. So she pulls out the turbo laser, big fucking turbo laser, and she's like, "Yeah, this is what keeps us safe. It's on the roof and shit." And Neil's like, "You know what? this fucking sucks. Like, you guys are at war all the time.
You're a literal child soldier.
Yeah.
How are you okay with this?
This entire place sucks, and I hate it. And you personally, because I think I might actually be in love with you now.
Yeah.
And plus everyone else deserves better. And she's like, your planet doesn't have war? And he's like, no, bitch, we have slap ball. And I'm real fucking good at it. And I, like, the most excitement I've ever had in my entire fucking life is my little brother, literally a third my size, stole my protractor and ran away with it. And I tried to fight him, and he sat on my head. That's the closest to combat I've ever been. What the fuck?
See, this is why Jude Law didn't throw Neil in one of the laser
Turbo
turrets
lasers.
in
He'd have been like,
on the ship.
oh, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd like wave at the X-Wing pilots. Hi, guys.
Hey!
So Becky's like, so you must be like a pretty weak clan. He's like, yeah, but you know what? We don't have to fight for our next meal, so who's the fucking moron here, really? And
I mean, he doesn't actually say that because
Right.
Neil's too sweet.
yeah, and I think he might actually start crushing on this girl like immediately.
Yeah.
And so he mentions their like cycle of violence and shit, and he's like, you could do this. You could just say you're sorry, and you can make peace. It's that fucking easy. And she's like, that is not how things work here or anywhere else. You're from, I don't know where the fuck you're from, kid, but that's crazy that you just said that. So the kids are still shooting guns.
Yes.
The other kids, everyone minus Neil.
Yep.
It turns out KB is like really good at shooting guns.
It's the cyborg parts.
Somehow very bad at high fives,
Eh.
which
You win some, you lose some.
I'm not even really that surprised by.
Yeah.
I would expect her not to be very good at that.
So Neil comes back, and Wim is like, hey, check this out.
Wim wants
pulls
to-
out
yeah.
the biggest fucking
Yes.
gun they have.
Yes, Wim just wants to show off in front of Neil.
And everyone's like, hey, maybe that's not a good idea. Wim's like, fuck you, I'm going to shoot this. Goes flying like
Yeah.
10 feet.
They're like, why don't you put the dial to 1? And he's like, fuck you, don't tell me what to do. Puts it to 11. It reminds me, did I ever tell you about the first time I ever shot a gun?
What happened?
Well, my dad gave me a 12 gauge.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know, 6.
I assume it put you straight on your ass.
It broke my collarbone. Like, because I didn't hold it the right way, right?
Yeah.
And it broke my collarbone. So like I broke my right collarbone with a fucking shotgun.
Why did your dad give you a shotgun?
You know, I don't know.
Like, wouldn't it have made more sense to start like a 22 or something small?
Or a BB gun.
Or yeah.
Or a Nerf gun. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway.
He's in the military. He was in the military.
So
By the way, I was not allowed to shoot a gun for a long time after that.
probably a good idea.
Yeah. So
So General Dad shows up and says, hey.
yeah, after Wim nearly fucking dies, by the way, from shooting this giant gun turned to 11.
Turns up and says, hey, you know, you kids, you're clearly training very hard. Decided to give you a great honor.
Yeah.
You're going to lead us into battle against the Hattons.
Don't thank me. Thank me after.
Mm-hmm.
I like how friend immediately was like, no thanks.
That's a really stupid idea.
Yeah. In fact, I think we're going to go now. We don't want to be here anymore. And they're like, oh no, that's not what we do here.
That was not an option.
Yeah.
That was not a request. That was a statement of fact.
Yeah.
You are going to lead us into battle.
Yeah. And we cut straight to the raiding party,
Yeah.
right? And they force these kids on the fucking front line.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand. There must be maybe part of the problem I have with this episode is that logically maybe the next episode the two things together or make a more coherent story. Mm-hmm. But because Disney tends to cut their episodes very strangely sometimes, and it's like in The Acolyte when you had like kind of a boring episode of characters walking through the woods, and then there's like you meet Kamir for the first time ever, and he's creepy. He comes like the fucking Babadook out of the fucking trees and shit, and then he does a force push in the sand, and then it cuts to credits, and you're like, this was a stupid fucking episode. But then the next episode is some of the best fucking lightsaber shit I've ever seen in my life. And it's like,
and you find out from the fucking showrunners that Disney forced us to cut it that way.
Yeah.
We wanted to have it all be one episode, but Disney said no.
Which would have made more sense because both of them together would have been like a 50-minute episode, like a regular, TV sized episode. So I wonder maybe if like the next episode isn't gonna like we're not gonna find out he's gonna like I don't know, kids are gonna kill him or something.
I don't know, maybe.
But this general guy, I think is the bad guy. I think he's the bad guy of this fucking episode.
I mean, he does have a cohort of literal child soldiers that he bosses around, so I think I feel comfortable calling him the bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the next part happens, which is like he's like, okay, now you guys go scout ahead, and
they're like, actually, we just want to leave, and he's like, no, you're gonna scout ahead. Yeah.
He forces them at gunpoint to go, and so Wim and Fern and KB are like, okay, I guess we're doing that. Neil stays behind because he's shitting his pants. Yeah, because he's really scared, and he doesn't want to go. And then Becky is like, well, hey,
all right, fine,
I'll go with you because like if you're shitting your pants, the best time to have a friend is when you're shitting your pants. And he's like, that's strangely wise, but okay,
sure.
Yeah. And so he talks himself up, and I like how he's like, as they inch forward, Neil's like, I would like, just for the record, for everyone to know how fucked up this is, and your dad is a bastard. And honestly, I'm not sure how I feel about you now that you're kind of not like speaking up against this and shit. And they're just kind of like inching forward, and he's like trying to work himself up so he can like,
and then who should come out of the mist but
again,
Jude
Law just kind of like comes out of the well, hold on a second before that. I want to hit on a couple of things because Neil makes a point. He's like, holding the guns thing, like that's not what's super brave. Like the super brave thing would be to make peace. And Becky is like, okay,
that's interesting.
Heard.
Yes,
but we are doing a raid.
Yeah,
so get your fucking gun up. And that's where we see Jude Law. And so it turns out that Jude Law and SM-33 were captured, and he just brokered a deal with the stolen credits. Yeah. He's like, I'll just buy your EOPs and return them, and they're like, fine, fuck it,
whatever. And
like, I don't know, with a few credits, I think he maybe solved peace on the planet.
Maybe.
Yeah. Because he shows up and all the fucking EOPs just like kind of come with him, and he's like, I got your cows back.
Wim is so upset that he did this
when he figures out
lunch money.
And then I like how he was like, dude, I stole them so I could do this. I didn't steal them and then realize that they were useful and could save my life. In fact, I thought you guys were dead. I am still the hero here. Please, everyone, remember that. And so General Dad is like, all right, well,
we got what we came for. We're going home now.
So you can have your choice of any weapons or hides. And he's like, I'll just take the fucking kids. I'll have the kids. And
General Dad is like, seriously?
Yeah, why? Like, also, we need some extra soldiers. And he's like, that's part of the reason I want the fucking kids back, because this is weird. Yeah. What you're doing here is very strange.
This is uncomfortable.
Yeah. I like, there's a really great moment where they all rush to him, and they all have like a little group hug, and Jude Law is like, am I your dad now? I think I might be your dad.
This is kind of weird, but okay.
So Becky takes them to the Fallen Sanctum.
Yes.
And it turns out that at Atten, this is the supervisor's tower, right? Yep. And they're like approaching it, and like they're talking about Atten, and then of course 33 is like, can't say I remember anything about no Atten, and they're like, oh, for fuck's sake, just shut up. So Becky leaves.
Becky says, I can't get any closer.
Yeah.
But Neil, you're pretty cool. Yeah. If you ever decide you want to get in the child soldier business, give me a call.
Yeah.
And then smooches him on the cheek.
Hold on. So Neil just offers to let her move in with him. Like he went from 0 to married like pretty quick, and he's like, you could just come live with me. Like my parents probably wouldn't mind. And she makes a pledge. She's like, that's cute, but no, we're not there yet, and I'm not that kind of girl. But I'll tell you what, when my dad dies, which might be soon, not saying I know how, I will look into this peace thing that you're talking about. And she tells him that, your weakness makes you kind. And she gives him a little kiss. And like, he doesn't move for a couple seconds because he's like, I might be erect. I don't know what to do about this. There is this really, though, a really precious kind of like push on his face and some like real pretty romantic music and everything. And you're just like, Neil, you deserve whatever woman you want. Like, you really do.
Yeah. And then she like runs away, does like a
cartwheel, and does a flip over a car.
Rock.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit.
Why?
You're so extra.
Yeah. It's like
that was completely unnecessary.
What if you had just fallen and broken your neck? Like the end of your story. You went to go do an unnecessary flip and you fell and broke your fucking neck. So they get to an elevator and they ride up the tower. And they get into this room and they're kind of looking around. And one of the kids is like, anyone see directions to Ad-Atten? And then 33 is like, can't say I remember anything about No Ad-Atten. And they're like, for fuck's sake, what is with you? That. So they start looking around and they notice that on the pillars around the room, there are coordinates for other planets that start with at.
There's so like at Atreides and at buttfuck.
Did you just really make up Dune?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say at dildo.
At dildo.
At Atreides actually sounds like it could work. Yeah. I think they're all other A names though too. Yeah. Right.
Anywing.
Yeah.
So they go around finding all of them, and one of the kids is like, "Hey, I found Ad-Atten."
It's Neil, because of course it was.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, there's fucking Ad-Atten.
But it's like the coordinates are destroyed.
Yeah. It is suspiciously, like just the part where they need is like it was like destroyed, right? And they're like, who the fuck would do that? And 33 was like, well, I did. I did it when I was here before with my old captain. And everyone like turns and looks at him. Like, what?
Excuse me?
And they're like, why would you destroy their coordinates to Ad-Atten? He's like, I can't say I remember anything on Ad-Atten. And they're like, and Fern just like something snaps and like her eye twitches and she's like, stop fucking saying that. And she gets real frustrated and she goes over to the window and looks longingly at it. And Wim comes over because I'm pretty sure they're going to hook up at some point. When they're older, I mean. Yeah. Like, they're going to give each other cooties. She is like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
I should not have been the captain.
This shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. I'm literally like 11 fucking years old.
I'm in over my head here. I do not want to do this anymore. Yeah. And Wim is like, yeah, but like, can't you just keep it? Like, we're so fucking close.
Yeah.
We almost know where Ad-Atten is. Like, you're awesome. Can you just get us home?
Pull it together.
And she's like, no, I can't just, like, you can't just tell me I'm awesome and then expect me to do things. I'm not a droid. I don't do whatever you tell me.
Hold on. She does say that he would have made a better captain. And his face says, I know. But but Wim is a class act.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I wouldn't have gotten us this far. Like, you really are kind of amazing. And I won't lie, and this may be a surprise to you, was not your hugest fan when we first met. After you showed up and stole our discovery, before that you were fine, but then that happened. But like, I kind of dig it. You being the captain, and they have this conversation, and she has this thought about
droids do whatever you tell them,
right? And so she comes up and says something about Ad-Atten again in front of 33, and he does the can't say I remember, and she's like, well, what if that was an order? Like, what if he literally can't? And so she pulls the same thing she did on her nanny droid, where she's like, memory override alpha, whatever fuck. And
I'm your captain.
Yeah.
You're going to remember everything you fucking ever knew about Ad-Atten.
And 33 goes, I do remember Ad-Atten.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. And so he tells this whole story, and he's like, yeah, we came here. Captain killed everyone who saw the coordinates. And oh God, he ordered me to kill whoever came along and started asking about it. So, I guess I go into horror movie mode now.
Yep, time to tear you limb from limb. Yeah. Let's go.
And his limbs extend, and he gets real like,
and this works incredibly well because we saw him beat the shit out of like 1 billion pirates.
Right.
Back on
yeah. He's real scary, and he because he's got a peg, like because of course he does. Yeah. but he also kind of like hunches over.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he pulls himself up, he's really big. Like he's a big droid. And he is like, I think he's going after Fern or Whim or something, right?
Fern, Whim, and KB.
Yeah. And Neil like
Fucking
gets his
chucks
moment.
a rock at
he
it.
gets his moment of bravery, and he like throws a rock, and he's like, "Hey, fuck face!" And like 33 turns around, and he's like, "I guess I'm tearing you limb from limb." And like, was it Neil or Jude Law? Someone hits his off button.
Jude Law does.
Okay.
Like Jude Law sneaks up from the side and gets the off button just when he's about to grab.
Yeah,
Neil.
and so he just like kind of like falls over on top of
Yeah.
Neil and shit. And Neil is so pleased with himself. And just as he's starting to bask in his glory, he just faints.
Yeah.
Like fucking unconscious.
Just passes the fuck out.
And this is where they ended the episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a weird place to end an episode. It was kind of like,
Yeah.
was there? This should have been 20 more minutes long.
Because it felt like they had a first act and a second act, but there was no third act to this.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, like I said, next week's episode will probably be like the arc for this location or whatever.
My prediction, which is utterly unfounded on anything, is that the Hattons, the people that Jude Law found, are actually the good guys here, and that they're gonna team up with them to kick out General Child Soldier.
Huh.
But I don't know.
Yeah, because they still don't have the coordinates.
Right.
Because like, did they even discuss what their next step is going to be?
Nope.
Yeah, this is a weird place to end the episode.
So their whole plan was make 33 remember At-Atten, make him tell us where At-Atten is.
Right.
And they hadn't gotten a further beyond that because
Right.
SM33 went horror movie mode.
Yeah.
So presumably whatever their plan is now, they're going to have to talk about next time.
Yeah, it's wonky. This episode was wonky, like pacing, like story wise, and they could have done a better job at it. I don't know what their deal is with, and this wasn't even really that short of an episode. It wasn't like some episodes are barely 30 minutes when you take into account that there's like a number of minutes for the end credits.
Recap and credits, yeah.
And then there's like a whole 60 seconds front loaded with the previously on. And I'm not sure why Disney Plus is. Well, I know why. I know exactly why.
Because they need to keep people subscribed.
Yeah, they're like, well, we could have 4 episodes and everyone could have 1 month of Disney Plus, or we could have 8 episodes.
And that's 2 months.
And that's 2 months. And that's double the months, really. Yeah. Any math experts out there. And that's why. And when you start making story decisions based on that, and you start making editing decisions based on that, shit like this happens. Or shit like in The Acolyte happens. Where you have an episode where, like, without the other part of the story, it sucks on its own. And it's not a very satisfying place to leave the story until next week.
You get a worse product.
Yeah. Now you go back and watch The Acolyte, and you watch those 2 episodes together. It's fucking cool. Like, it's really neat, but it's just they cut it in a really weird, wonky way. Let's read some of our comments. Our friend April said, "Switching off Angry Droid is always a good technique." Neil definitely episode MVP though, which I named him Neil the Wise. Because he has some moments of a lot of these responses to this are just memes about Neil or SM33,
which I appreciate.
They're not necessarily comments.
Yeah.
This one is from the Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah.
If only
I've only known Neil for 3 weeks, but anything happened to him, yeah.
Yeah. And then the initiating babysitter mode. Oh, you're so sweet. Tear them limb from limb. Hello, human resources. Where was the one? Which, by the way, I'm a mod over at Star Wars Veritas, and I also will post our spoiler thread over on that page too. So everyone should go check that out. In the it's not called Star Wars Veritas anymore. It's called SW Veritas because they went through that weird thing where like if you have Star Wars in your page name, you get in trouble or whatever. John says Neil has some great simple wisdom in the episode. He rocks. And then Christian says this planet being so similar to theirs will definitely make them appreciate home way more.
Yeah.
That's the thing though, is I'm not sure that. So at Achrann is pretty fucked up. But I'm pretty sure that Ad Atten is also fucked up, just in an entirely different way. Because
Ad Atten feels like the model that all the other planets were based on, and the others have just sort of collapsed for various reasons. Maybe as a commentary on how suburbia sucks.
Yeah, it's maybe they're like the late stage capitalism. Yeah. And it's like this is what you have to look forward to. Mm-hmm. It reminds me. I've been getting caught up on a couple of different shows. One of them is an Apple original called Silo. That I'll give you a quick premise. It is in the future by about 100-something years.
Okay.
And everyone lives in these underground silos because some cataclysm befell humanity. Yeah. But none of them remember what the world was like before because it's far enough removed, and they have these rules about not referring to the before times. So no one knows why they're in the silos. They don't know anything about the world around them other than if they go outside of the silo, they die. And they have like one cardinal rule, which is you're not allowed to say that you want to go outside, because then they put you outside regardless of if you want to go or not. And it's like the big cardinal crime of the society or whatever. Mm-hmm. Brief spoilers for Silo. At the end, you find out that there are a bunch of other silos.
Of course.
And in one of the other silos, that like theirs fell apart. And it was a whole bunch like this, where like you start off in a silo that is well ordered. Everyone's following the rules. Everything. And then this other thing where it's like, oh, half of it's submerged in water and everyone's dead. You know? And then I also, have you heard about Secret Level?
I've heard about it. I haven't had the time to sit down and actually watch it.
I binged all of it in like a day because it's also really cool. It's like an animated.
Based on a bunch of video games.
Yeah, it's like an anthology thing where they're short episodes and every one is based off of like the first one's like a Dungeons and Dragons thing, and then there's a Pac-Man episode that is really disturbing, but they're all really good too. We've got a couple minutes. We got about 10 minutes. Shall we talk about Dune Prophecy?
I think we should.
Part 5.
This was my favorite episode so far. Like some shit was happening.
Remind me what happens in the beginning, and then I'll remember the rest of it.
Oh, let's see. So,
because I watched it on Sunday.
Desmond, what's his name, is putting together his secret police.
Spoilers, by the way. Yeah, oh yeah.
And presents them to the Emperor, and the Emperor's like, "Hey, great, you're my secret police. You're gonna root out the insurgents now."
Gestapo.
Yeah. And like the princess storms out afterwards, and she's like, "Yeah, I did my fucking job here. I'm out of here."
Dad, we're not gonna be space Nazis. Fuck you.
Turns out that Prince Constantine, the Emperor's bastard, is actually
he is pretty, by the way.
He's the son of a sister.
Makes sense because she's very pretty as well.
Yes.
So like now I understand why he looks the way he looks.
So this sister shows up to the palace, and right away the Emperor's like, "Oh, are we doing this again?"
Oh, there is visibly a connection between them that they explain a little bit later. Something about a technique called imprinting or something, where like she's like, "I fucked him, now he's mine." Like that's pretty much I think what it is. Yeah. And I think she's there to.
So she is there as part of Valia's plan to get
back into the Emperor's good graces.
Yes,
right,
get sisters in the Emperor's good graces. Get Constantine in command of the fleet that's going to go over Arrakis.
Right,
like everything,
and then get the princess back to the sisterhood.
Yes,
so they can
everything
make her,
is this Byzantine wheels within wheels.
Yeah,
complicated plan.
Valia is a 4D chess player.
Yeah. Like she has this plan to kill Desmond that involves blowing up the Spice Club or whatever.
She should have known that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, it winds up not working, but it almost.
I watch. I follow a YouTube channel called CinemaSins.
Mm-hmm.
They did the first episode of Dune Prophecy. And the first thing that he bitches about is like the first thing I bitched about in this show, which is it takes place 10,000 years before the events of
Dune.
Yeah, the new Timothée Chalamet Dune. And in 10,000 years, they still have these stupid personal shields that work exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Like how impossible that would be for technology not to move in 10,000 years.
10,000 years, by the way, is greater than the entire length of recorded human history.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. I don't think we might have actually looked a lot different 10,000. Like, we certainly would have looked different 10,000 years ago.
I mean, 10,000 years ago, I guess that's not Neanderthal times.
No, because they were 100,000 years. Yeah.
Okay. So back in the sistery, Tula,
are they called the Bene Gesserit yet? By the way,
I don't think so.
Or they're just?
I think they're just the
space
sisters.
nuns. Okay.
Yeah. So Tula fucking grabs the misbehaving acolyte and is like, "Hey."
CinemaSins called her Dune Arya Stark.
Sure.
Dune Arya
Stark. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, I get that.
So come with me, Dune Arya Stark. I'm going to show you that Lila isn't actually dead.
Yeah.
And
surprise.
She kind of needs your help.
Oh, and she's very weird now.
Yeah.
She's not great to have conversations with.
So they finally managed to get her calmed down and like channeling her ancestors or something.
Yeah.
And they get her
fucking
into the
comes
lab.
out with Raquella. Raquella's like, I'm back, bitches.
So this is a question I had because maybe you remember this better, but I
doubt it because in the last episode, it did not even occur to me that Valia's assistant was changing faces.
Yeah.
Okay, this is the problem, is that I don't watch these on HBO.
Mm-hmm.
I watch them from a different source.
Yes.
And they're sometimes not available until about an hour after it airs.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like hour-long episodes.
Yeah.
So by the time I watch it, it's like 11:30, and I start to get a little tired. Mm-hmm. And so like the last 10 minutes of every episode, like I'm like starting to nod off. And it's not because I'm not enjoying it. It's just it's late and I'm very tired. Okay. So like that's why at the end of that episode, I was like, wait, is he alive? I don't understand what's happening.
So what I remember from Lila's sequence going through the agony is that at the very end of it, it was revealed to her that she's not the descendant of Raquella. She's the descendant of that one lady that Valia made send herself to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Well, no, she's related to Raquella.
Oh, okay.
She's Raquella's granddaughter.
Okay. So what I think is happening during the sequence in the lab is that the Backstreet Boys reunion tour lady is possessing her and pretending to be Raquella for some sort of ends.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm going to confirm this real quick.
Yeah.
Raquella granddaughter. Reverend Mother Dorothea is young granddaughter of Raquella.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And Lila is her daughter.
Just, yeah, I think.
Or a granddaughter.
Or something.
Yeah.
Descendant.
Right. So because I think she talked to her at one point.
Yeah.
Like she showed up and was like, fuck you killed me, motherfucker. And she's like, go back to bed.
But like, there's a couple questions that possessed Lila asks Tula, and it's just a little bit off enough to make me think that it's not Raquella speaking.
What? But she knew a bunch of shit that only Raquella would know.
Yeah.
And she was acting kind of like, she was like immediately in charge of everything, and she was like, it's like I never left.
I might be wrong, but
I do like how she like Raquella's possessing her, and there's Tula and like the other sister, the old lady, shows up and she's like, what the fuck is happening?
What is any of this?
Yeah, it's like, okay, lots of questions. First of all, why the fuck are her eyes blue?
Why is she alive?
Why is she alive? And why is she acting like Raquella? And I told you to stop doing weird shit like this. God damn it, Tula.
Tula's like, the answer to all your questions is that I'm in charge. Suck my dick.
Yeah.
And don't tell anyone.
Or I'll tell Valia and she'll be very mad at you. Yeah.
So, in the course of all this, Constantine discovers that Atreides guy is a traitor.
And he's also very pretty, by the way.
So Atreides guy goes to prison, and the princess winds up visiting him there. Is like, all right, fucking tell me the truth. What's going on here? And he's like, yeah, I'm actually trying to overthrow the Empire because
Freedom fighter.
Because I think I'll do a better job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's like, well, shit, you actually believe that? Okay. Well.
He's like, well, wanna fuck? in this 0G.
Let me tell you who does want to fuck. The Emperor and his sister friend.
Oh, yeah, because, okay, so as you can imagine, his wife is not okay with this,
No,
by the way.
because she immediately goes to Desmond and is like, hey, let's fuck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and he doesn't, though, right?
He's
like, I only fuck sandworms.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There's the very last, like the shock reveal at the end is the cloth that Valia sent Tula with Desmond's blood on it. She gets it into the analyzer.
It's
and
Oscar Tully, right?
What?
There's the episode where Tula kills all the Atreides, and Oscar Tully from House of the Dragon was the only one left.
No, because Desmond's DNA has Harkonnen blood and Atreides blood, so they would have had a kid. It's Tula's son.
Oh, I understand.
Because they fucked.
No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, and like right before this, Desmond says, "I fucking hate the sisters because a sister had me and then abandoned me."
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. He's probably conceived the night before she fucking murdered his entire like
hours before she murdered all of them.
So his entire character arc, or his entire character motivation is mommy problems.
Yes. That
tracks on so many different levels.
Also, the guy you were thinking of, Oscar Tully, he would be Atreides Swordmaster's father, probably? Because he was like the only Atreides that survived that.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Right, because she was... Valia or Tula was like in her mid-20s probably,
something like that. Yeah,
and I think he was about the same age.
Yeah, so the ages would work out.
They're like 30 years removed. I think it's like 30 years later. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. So I don't know what to think about Desmond's. The actor hams up every scene he's in,
which I think is really good for the character because like he's kind of
eccentric and very weird, and his eyes really bother me, and I think it's because like one of his pupils are like really dilated and the other one isn't, because I don't think they're different colors, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think if you look at his eyes, like one of his pupils is like the size of a fucking dinner plate, and then the other one's like normal size.
The energy he gives off just between his appearance and his behavior kind of reminds me of MCU Thor when he's trying to be goofy.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Like the beginning of I think Love and Thunder, where he's adventuring with the Guardians of the Galaxy and
being a goof. Yeah, he is
kind of like that.
Yeah. The murder plot against Desmond, it's like he's got one of those shields, and like all he's got to do is like boop, because we know that explosions don't work on those shields from the Dune.
Well, the thing is, like, he had just enough time to see it coming, and I think if he didn't, he might not have time to activate his shield.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so every plan she's had to deal with him has failed, because her first plan was, I'm gonna foil this assassination plot. I'm gonna use my really cool knife. I'm gonna kill the thing. And he's like, no, I'm gonna do that. That's my thing.
My favorite part of this episode, by the way, is after the assassination plot fails and fucking Freeman's sister goes to see Valia, is like, okay, what the fuck do I do now? Valia's like, go back to Arrakis, and she's
run,
like,
girl.
I am not going to betray my people for you. And the acolyte is like, well, actually, the sisters are your people.
Yeah.
And Freeman's sister is like, oh, that you sweet summer child.
Yeah. Have you never met another Fremen before? Like,
I bet you believe everything Valia tells you, don't you?
Also, have you not seen Dune Part 1 or Part 2? Like, the Fremen are insanely connected to one another. Yeah. All right. That's going to be the end.
Good show. Go watch it.
It is. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. Terrible news. We will not be having a show next week because our show falls on Christmas Day. We'll both be involved in various family things. So I'm not sure if we might just do 2 skeleton crews on like the next week or something. So.
Which is New Year's Day, which is
I care less about that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll buy us some champagne and we'll have little cute champagne flutes while we do it. So join us for that. It'll be 2 weeks from today. Otherwise, if you're celebrating Christmas, have a good Christmas.
If you're celebrating other stuff, have a good whatever that is.
Have a good whatever. And if you're not celebrating at all, go and enjoy Skeleton Crew when it comes out. That's celebration enough.